Throughout history, food has always been about more than just substance to the Black community. It was a window into the soul of Black culture. On New Year's Day, Black communities would indulge in culinary traditions featuring dishes like black-eyed peas, collard greens, cornbread, and pork. But these weren't meals. They were symbols crafted from resilience, born out of the depths of adversity, and steeped in rich heritage of our people. So today, join us while we uncover the stories of the foods of New Year's Day. And if you like stories like this, you can find more stories like this at onemichistory.com. But without further ado, let's get started. Each New Year's Day, I fondly remember my grandmother setting up a pot of dry black-eyed peas on the stove to soak. She would carefully prepare her special New Year's Day meal. By morning, she would simmer them with smoked turkey necks, and it filled the house with a savory aroma. Once tender, she would ladle them over a bed of rice, pairing them with collard greens and cornbread. This Southern tradition is believed to usher in good fortune and prosperity for the year ahead, but she would always say that if you eat poor on New Year's Day, you'll live rich the rest of the year. And with this, our journey begins with black-eyed peas that trace their roots to Western Africa, where they were seen as a symbol of good luck and prosperity. During the transatlantic slave trade, they journeyed along with enslaved Africans to the Americas, first appearing in the West Indies before making their way to the Carolinas. In these lands, black-eyed peas became an essential part of the diets of enslaved people for their ability to thrive in various climates and provide vital nutrients, so much so that they became known as the poor man's meat. In Western Africa, black-eyed peas were a beacon of hope and promise for a better time. So enslaved Africans facing harsh conditions in the Americas held close to this belief, viewing these peas as a connection to their heritage and a symbol of resilience. Over time, black-eyed peas intertwined with Black American culture and began to embody strength and optimism. Eventually, black-eyed peas became associated with New Year's Day when the blending of African cultures and European traditions came together in the American South. One such idea is that of first footing, where a dark-haired person had to be the first to enter the home on New Year's Day to bring good luck. Enslaved Africans would adapt this by linking black-eyed peas, marked by their dark spots, which resembled a dark-eyed person, as a symbol of good fortune and good luck. Collard greens would take a bit of a different path. They date back to ancient Greece and ancient Rome, where they were a daily staple. As the Roman Empire grew, this hearty grain spread to the British Isles, slowly becoming essential to their winter diets, where fresh produce became scarce. From Europe, collard greens made their way to Western Africa and eventually across the Atlantic during the transatlantic slave trade. Enslaved Africans once again brought in knowledge of cultivating collard greens to the American South, where they adapted European dishes like bacon and greens, creating nourishing meals while cooking collard greens with pork. This combination of the bitter greens and pork not only provided sustenance, but also became a symbol of survival through the hardships of enslavement. In African American folklore, collard greens began to take on a symbolic meaning. They represented wealth and prosperity. The vibrant color of the leaves is associated with financial success. A popular saying emphasizing this states that the black-eyed peas are just for the coins, and collards and other greens are folded money. On New Year's Day, many believe that eating collard greens will bring financial prosperity for the year ahead. Now, this brings us to cornbread, which has its origins in Native American population, who cultivated corn long before Europeans arrived in the Americas. They introduced corn to European settlers and eventually enslaved Africans. And the cornbread quickly became a staple due to its simple preparation and its nourishing qualities. As enslaved Africans were brought to the Americas through the transatlantic slave trade, they began to incorporate cornbread into their diets, and it was valued for its ease of preparation. Enslaved Africans would creatively adapt cornbread into variations such as ash cakes, hoe cakes, solidifying its place in Black culinary traditions. Pork also shares a part of New Year's Day celebration, as it has deep cultural roots stretching all the way back to Western Africa and into the American South. In Western Africa, pork was a treat, only savored during big occasions. Enslaved Africans brought these customs to America, where pork became a staple of their diet due to its availability and affordability. Their resourcefulness shined as they used every part of the pig, from the rooter to the tutor. Some cultures believe that pigs symbolize progress, and this belief was embraced by Black Americans who made pork into a central part of their New Year's Day meals, reflecting aspirations and connections to their heritage and to the future. The convergence of these foods on New Year's Day illustrates the creativity of Black Americans in their culinary traditions. As enslaved Africans arrived in the American South, they brought their culinary history with them from their diverse homelands, and these foods began to coalesce into a singular tradition during celebratory occasions like New Year's Day. So as the clock struck midnight, January 1st, 1863, the Emancipation Proclamation would take effect, altering the trajectory of the nation of African American. The proclamation that infused New Year's Day with new meaning, not merely just a marker of time passing, but it was an annual commemoration of their freedom and progress. And on the first New Year's Day after the proclamation, those celebratory meals featuring foods like Hoppin' John became intertwined with the narrative of emancipation, offering a tangible taste of hope and renewal and intertwining with Black culinary heritage. In the years that follow, foods like Hoppin' John, black eyed peas, and cornbread solidified their place in African American New Year's Day traditions, evolving in tandem with American society. For us, it became more than just a meal. It was an actual testament to our strength and perseverance. As time went on until the early 20th century, the Great Migration saw millions of African Americans leave the South for urban centers in the North. African Americans carried with them not only their aspirations for a better future, but they brought with them their New Year's Day food traditions. And as they navigated the diverse cultural urban landscapes like cities like Chicago and New York and Detroit, adaptations and evolution of these dishes was inevitable, reflecting this unique blending of regional influences while maintaining their heritage and ties to the American South. In the North, for instance, the availability of ingredients and interaction of other immigrant communities led to subtle modifications of recipes, like Hoppin' John, traditionally made with black-eyed peas, rice, and pork, might be prepared locally with available beans that were adapted to incorporate additional vegetables. Similarly, collard greens are often supplemented or replaced with other leafy green vegetables, such as kale, depending on their availability. Cornbread would often be incorporated with elements to make it sweeter, like molasses or honey, reflecting northern preferences toward more savory dishes than their southern counterparts. Despite these regional adaptations, the fundamental meaning of these dishes remains intact. They continue to symbolize luck, prosperity, and resilience, providing continuity and cultural connection amid societal change. These meals were not only a connection to African Americans and their southern roots, but also a shared symbol of unity and perseverance within the borders of the Black community. Additionally, as Black people settled in these various spaces, these culinary traditions influenced the local food scene, broadening the exposure and appreciation for African American foods. Restaurants and communal gathering spaces became spaces where traditional New Year's meals were served, fostering a sense of belonging and culinary preservation. Cookbooks written by Black authors during this era would ensure that these recipes with historical and cultural significance were passed down to future generations. Today, New Year's Day traditions have held steadfast in Black households, serving as a bridge between the past and present, even as they continue to evolve to reflect contemporary tastes and lifestyles. Black-eyed peas, collard greens, cornbread, pork continue to grace tables, a powerful emblem of luck and wealth. These dishes, once humbly prepared under the restrictions of enslavement, now have new life infused with modern flavors and techniques that celebrate innovation while honoring our past. In their broadening appeal and integration into the wider culinary traditions, these dishes tell a powerful story about Black heritage, and they remind the Black community of their profound endurance and innovation out of necessity. Each recipe carries with it the weight of history and the whispers of the ancestors who cooked and cherished these meals through time and unimaginable hardship. They serve as a testament that these were more than substance. They were rich narratives woven into the fabric of American history. Thank you. I'm your host, Country Boy, and this has been the story of the Foods of New Year's Day. If you like stories like this, you can find more stories like this at OneMikeHistory.com. Also, I'd like to thank all my monetary subscribers. Without you, none of this can be possible. I love you all. Peace.